Hello, it's Dave here. This video is going to be about solving a bit of a complicated lighting problem I've got. And if you've got something similar yourself, then hopefully this might be helpful. And it's just a quite an inexpensive little bit of kit which has kind of helped me to sort this problem out to quite a large extent. What the problem is I work from this area here, which as you can see has got a fantastic view. And that's really pretty relevant to me because what I use a lot of my videos for is to promote a company that trains people on how to create an internet business, which gives you a great deal of location freedom and time independence. So obviously it's good for me to demonstrate that by showing people where I've been able to come and live in the last year or so. And this is actually, what I'm showing you now is actually where I work from most of the time. Now, as you can see, it's you can't see all of the window, but it's a big bay window, front facing, faces out to the Firth of Clyde, and the house is designed to bring in as much light as possible, which is fabulous. Gives you an amazing view, and it's quite extraordinary. But it's a really difficult thing to film properly, because what happens is cameras tend to concentrate on the biggest light source, the most powerful light source, and that in this case is the sun, which is quite a hard thing to beat. So I've tried various things. What I've done is occasionally filmed the view for 5 or 6 minutes and then gone in and into my little office, which is next door, also facing the same way but with a much smaller window. I've got a green screen in there, so quite often I've filmed the view here and then kind of green screen myself into it, if you like, so which is okay. It's easier to do in the office just because of the space. I'm normally just doing the video from an office chair, so that's really easy to just go against a green screen and do that. But for this, even if I'm going to do that, the light is still, from outside, is still very overpowering to the rest of what's in the shot, which is really just, I guess, the laptop and the table and the chairs that you can see that where I'm working from. So the way I've looked into this, I did a lot of Google searching and spoke to a lot of photographers and videographers and people like that, and they suggested you can get a neutral density film for your window, which basically is a kind of a non-tinted, well actually it is tinted. You can get a gel or a film, put that in your window, and it basically cuts out a lot of the light that's coming in, so that if you've got a few lamps inside the room that you can light yourself with, it gives the camera much more of a chance to get a kind of balanced video, with, importantly, with you well lit rather than just completely in shadow, which is what happens if you don't do any kind of neutral density films or anything like that. But anyway, the neutral density stuff, not only did I find it very hard to find, it's also pretty expensive. So what I decided to do, I do a lot of still photography, and I do have a couple of darkening filters, which are quite good if you're doing long exposure shots. So if you're doing something like a waterfall, say, and you want to have that traditional effect where the water's really blurred and just looks like a kind of white blurry kind of stuff, you need a very long exposure of sort of 10, 20, 30 seconds even. So I've got filters that do that for still photography, and it occurred to me that I could possibly do something similar for these videos. So what I did was buy a little set of filters, which I'll show you at the end of the video, from Amazon, and it was only, I think, like less than £15 UK, which is what, about $20 or something American. But it contains a number of different neutral density filters, so completely darkening filters for those long exposure shots, but it's also got some gradiated filters, which mean that you can darken the top or bottom of the exposure, just darken that part of the lens, in front of the lens, and leave the rest lighter, which is obviously kind of what I'm looking for in this situation. So I'll show you now the same view with a gradiated neutral density filter on it. So as you can probably see from this first clip without the filter, everything's quite bleached out. The camera is really focusing, or it's giving a lot of priority to the outside daylight, the sky and so on. The sky looks a little bit bleached, and what there is of the foreground is actually quite dark, as you can see. So if I was to be in the foreground from experience, no matter how much of the modest lighting I have, if I was to throw that on myself with the camera on this setting, I'm still going to really struggle not to have my face in shadow. So let's have a look at the other setting. So here we are. Now we've got the same view, same camera setting, but with the gradiated ND filter on there. You can probably see, I would hope already, that the sky is a little less dark and there's a little bit more definition in the clouds and so on in the sky. And there's a little bit more balance between the foreground and the background. Now, I think I would still struggle, I will experiment with this, I think I would still struggle to have myself where I'd like to ideally be in this shot and be properly lit in a sort of balanced way with the background. But if I was going to do this on a sort of, with just putting me in with a very simple green screen setup, this is going to make a much better impression. It's going to be a much more balanced looking shoot. So here's what you get with this nice little kit, filter kit from XC Source on Amazon. I'll give you the link obviously under the description and possibly in the video. So you get a little wallet first of all, with quite a nice little wallet with a full range of filters in it. So there are 6 different filters in there. 3 of them are just standard neutral density darkening filters, and the other 3 are gradiated neutral density, so they start dark and go lighter. Very dark to just much less dark, and one in between. And then you get an adapter kit and a whole series of these which go onto the lens. I'll show you in a second. There's 9 of these in total, and they are that covers pretty much any lens you might have in your collection or on your camera, your DSLR. I've got 3 lenses. I've got a 52mm, a 67 and a 77mm fitment. So I'll just show you how this works with a little 50mm. This is a 52mm thread on it, a little 50mm lens. So first of all, you attach one of these, appropriate size to your lens, and it just threads onto the standard filter thread. And then you clip this, which is the filter holder, and it just slots onto the ring, because the exterior of all the rings is the same size. It's just this actual aperture that is appropriate to whatever lens size you've chosen. Okay, and then when that's in place, select your filter, and I'm going for this ND gradiated filter that I mentioned earlier, and if I put it there you can probably see how that works. So it starts off at the top. So for filming in my room, like I showed you, the sky is going to be up here and the room down here, so obviously it's completely transparent by the time you get to the bottom. Starts off very dark and then it's just gradiated all the way down. Okay, so that just slots into your filter, whichever filter you've chosen, slots into the little holder. Can be a little fiddly, and then you just can slide it up and down in there until you get the effect you want. Yeah, so obviously that ends going onto your camera, and then the camera is being kind of tricked really, because you've set the exposure for whatever you were pointing the camera at and keeping that exposure, and then when you fit one of these in front of the lens you're kind of fooling it, so it's going to expose everything at the same exposure. But with this little trick, this little gadget, you're going to make the sky darker just with this little filter. So there you go, I hope that's been useful to you. Just a handy little gadget to add to your arsenal really of photography and video tricks. These filters are really good for landscape photography, so you possibly have a very, very bright sky to contend with in a landscape, which is going to kind of dominate the shot, and maybe the sky is going to bleach out, for example. Really useful for that if you put the gradiated filter on, because it will just trick the camera into exposing the sky a little less than the foreground, which is really useful. And also if you want to do those long exposure shots I mentioned earlier, like waterfalls, if you want to sort of freeze a waterfall and get that kind of lovely blurred effect, really good for that with just the solid filters, which again just darken it down. I mean, you can do really long exposure so that things can blur. Really useful. But again, for videos, that was really why I got this, to kind of sort out the problem I have with the bright background of, you know, filming myself in front of a window. So hope it helps. Like I say, the link is down there if you want to have a look at this on Amazon. You'll get more details on the different sized attachments there are for all the different lenses. Like I say, there are 9 on there. So yeah, really worthwhile. I think £14 in fact it was, but again, you can check it out if you're interested. And if you've enjoyed this, you want to see some more video tips and tricks, and also internet marketing, lifestyle, self-development, personal development, these are all the sort of things that are on my channel and on my different playlists, so feel free to subscribe underneath, and hope to see you in another video. Cheers for now, it's been Dave, davemenzies.com. Bye bye.